Holocaust in the Netherlands. After Hitler came to power in Germany, Jews fled to the Netherlands illegally, hoping it would be a safe haven due to its neutrality during World War I. They believed that in the Netherlands they would be shielded from the Nazis' anti-Semitic policies. When the Jews arrived in the Netherlands, the Dutch had set up internment camps, which were prison camps that they were placed in without being given a trial. The main camp was called Westerbork. Westerbork was a transit camp in Drenthe province, northeastern Netherlands, during World War II. Established by the Dutch government in the summer of 1939, Westerbork was meant to serve as a refugee camp for Jews who had illegally entered the Netherlands. As a result of the Jews being separated and assimilating during the interwar period, they were not united and very vulnerable, making them defenses to future actions the Nazis took against them. The Netherlands, which the Jews thought would keep them safe from the Nazis, was invaded by Germany on May 10, 1940. Netherlands, which until then had remained neutral in the world's conflict, the Nazis took control of the government, and Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands fled to Great Britain. The invasion occurred so quickly that the Jews were taken by surprise, and only a few hundred managed to flee the country. Just 4 days later, on May 14, 1940, the Germans bombed Rotterdam, known as the Rotterdam Blitz, which was a very prominent city and was their largest seaport for trading goods. Hitler ordered the establishment of a German civil administration in the Netherlands under the command of the SS. Despite its initial promise not to disrupt the social structure of the country, the German government solely imposed anti-Jewish policies. They solely imposed discriminatory measures against the Jews, but the Dutch population would start to take up the German cause as well and start hating the Jews. In September 1940, Jewish newspapers were closed down. On January 10, 1941, the German administration ordered that a compulsory census be taken of all people having full or mostly Jewish blood. The Jews were then excluded from public office and later that month from public places in Amsterdam. During November, Jewish civil servants, the men and women who were paid to work for the central government, were fired and the assets of all Jewish businesses were registered. In May 1941, the restrictive measures against the Jews intensified even more. Jews were banned from public baths and parks, and they could no longer rent rooms in certain hotel complexes. Later in the year, Jewish students were separated from non-Jewish ones and forced to attend separate schools. In January 1942, they were completely banned from public schools. Signs declaring Jews are forbidden appeared everywhere. In 1942, the Nazi authorities intensified their system of identification and exclusion of the Jews. They ordered that their identity cards be marked with the letter J. At the end of March 1942, the Nuremberg laws took effect in the Netherlands. These were a series of legal measures made by the Nazi government in 1935 in order to define the word Jew, discriminate against them, and restrict their freedom. Soon after, on April 29, 1942, the German authorities made all Jews over the age of 6 wear a yellow star. After the Germans excluded Jews from public jobs in early 1941, public protests erupted. Professors, students, priests, and others protested against the dismissal of Jews in certain jobs, specifically lectures at universities. Extremely violent raids were carried out. Many non-Jewish civilians saw these raids in Amsterdam. This resulted in protests and strikes to cooperate in German protocol in Amsterdam and the surrounding area. The most well-known strike is known as the February Strike. As soon as rumors of the first raid reached the Dutch Communist Party, it organized a strike to show its support for its Jewish colleagues. The strike spread to other non-communist sectors, and many social democrats and patriots joined in the demonstration that followed in the Old Jewish Quarter. This demonstration, which took place between February 25th and 27th, became the symbol of the resistance and the support of the Dutch population for the Jewish community. The event is, however, an exception to the norm in that no such other acts of resistance was ever organized after. On February 27th, the German administration declared a state of emergency. The army intervened and quickly put an end to the demonstration using violent methods. They commemorate the strike every year, and they even have a statue. While some non-Jews opposed the Nazi ideology and course of action, the majority of the non-Jews actively collaborated with their anti-Semitic policies. The majority that collaborated were the groups of people who had been previously upset with the influx of Jewish German refugees at the start of the war. The Nazis joined these groups for support.
On February 11, 1941, the Dutch Nazi Party attacked the Jews in public places throughout the Jewish quarter. The violence intensified around Waterloopian Square. The next day, the old Jewish quarter of Amsterdam was temporarily surrounded and closed by SS officers, giving it the feel of an Eastern European ghetto. The quarter was finally reopened, but was marked off with signs and banners indicating that it was a Jewish area and that Wehrmacht soldiers, the regular German army, should not enter. The German authorities took advantage of the consolidation of the Jews and set up the Judenrat, the Jewish council, to serve as an intermediary between the authorities and the Jews. The council had to implement the orders of the authorities, and they had to meet certain quotas of Jews to send to labor camps.
So far, things have been hard for the Jews, but there had not been a mass deportation yet, until in an attack against the Jews, a Nazi officer named Hendrik Koot was killed, and in order to punish the Jews for the murder of Koot. On February 22, 1941, about 425 young Jewish men between the ages of 25 and 35 were deported first to Buchenwald and then to Mauthausen concentration camp. Not one came back alive. During late 1941, the Judenrat was tasked with providing a list of workers as the Germans opened a number of forced labor camps. During 1942, the Germans ordered the concentration of Jews in Amsterdam. Foreign or stateless Jews were sent to Westerbork, a prison camp in the Netherlands, or other labor camps in the Netherlands. Deportations to the labor camps went on throughout the year. By September, between 7,000 and 7,500 Jews had been sent to 37 different labor camps dispersed in the eastern and southern Netherlands. Although the German administration had promised that the working conditions would be similar to those of other Dutch workers, the Jews' rations were actually reduced, and their salary was on average 25% lower than it was previously.
Early in 1942, raids were carried out in Amsterdam, and the unemployed Jewish men were deported to labor camps. In the 5 days preceding the raids, the Jewish Council had organized medical exams to identify Jewish males in sufficiently good health to work in the camps. 1,075 Jews were called up. In February 1942, the Nazi authorities ordered the deportation of foreign Jews, mainly German Jews who had fled Germany when Hitler came to power, to Westerbork and then to Auschwitz. In the summer of the same year, the SS officer in charge of Jewish affairs and evacuation, Adolf Eichmann, informed the German Foreign Office that 40,000 Jews were expected to be evacuated from the Netherlands. Due to a devastating efficiency, this quota would be reached by the end of the year. The deportations were to continue until Amsterdam was declared Juden-free, free of all Jews.
In July 1942, the Germans began rounding up Jews with the help of the Dutch police, who actively collaborated and assisted by rounding up Jews on the streets or in their homes, sending them to Westerbork on their way to the extermination camps at Auschwitz and Sobibor, where they were murdered. The Dutch railway workers administered and operated the rolling stock in which Jews were deported to and from Westerbork. In September 1943, all remaining Jews were being sent to Germany. The Jewish ghettos and communities had to decide who would be deported, and each time the number grew. In addition, the Germans took about 700 prisoners each time, and if the Jewish communities could not get forward Jews to be deported, those 700 Jews would be sent to the death camps.
By September 1943, even the Jews who had until this point benefited from exemptions were deported to the east. This was particularly true of Jews married to non-Jews. They were forced to choose between deportation and sterilization, no longer have the ability to have kids. More than 3,000 Jews would renew their exemption from undergoing sterilization. However, the doctors responsible for performing the operations were favorable to the Jewish cause. Hence, only 600 of the 3,000 Jews were really sterilized. The majority of Jews in mixed marriages refused to undergo the operation and chose to risk deportation.
All in all, the arrest and deportation of the 70,000 Jews of Amsterdam to the death camps took less than a year. Since the beginning of 1943, about 34,000 Dutch Jews were sent to Sobibor death camp in Nazi-occupied Poland, and only 18 survived, said Martin Eads, the chairman of the Sobibor Foundation in the Netherlands. This relatively unknown camp accounted for about a third of Dutch Jewish victims of the Holocaust, Mr. Eads said, and Auschwitz counted for most of the others. The last train left Westerbork for Auschwitz-Birkenau on September 3, 1944, by which time 107,000 Jews had been deported. Of this number, only 5,200 survived.
The liberation of the Netherlands occurred relatively slowly. The Canadian Army was given the responsibility of liberating the northwest coast of France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. In November 1944, with the Canadian Army advancing, the Nazis redoubled their efforts to deport as many Jews as possible. Numerous raids in Rotterdam led to the deportation of 50,000 Jews to the east. On April 12, 1945, the Canadian Army liberated Westerbork, which still held about 900 Jews. The Netherlands were officially liberated on May 5, 1945. Although the war had indeed come to an end, life did not become easier for the general population, and even less so for the Jewish survivors. In fact, the reconstruction of Europe in general, and of the Netherlands in particular, proved difficult. Hundreds of thousands of people were altogether destitute and had to go through displaced person camp. The Netherlands government refused to acknowledge the existence of the Holocaust and the tragedy that the Jewish community lived through during the occupation. No special measures were taken to come to the aid of the Jews. Similarly, the state refused to provide any help whatsoever to the repatriated Jews, arguing that such help should come from the Jewish communities of the Netherlands elsewhere in the world. The state thus refused to help its own citizens. Only 10,000 of the 70,000 Jews of Amsterdam survived the war, a number hardly sufficient to reestablish a community that existed on Dutch soil for almost 4 centuries. The old Jewish quarter is almost entirely demolished and will never be reestablished.
While the geography of the Netherlands made escape difficult because they were right next to Germany, between 25,000 to 30,000 Jews managed to go into hiding, assisted by the Dutch underground. Remarkably, of this total, 2/3 of Dutch Jews in hiding managed to survive. The most famous person to survive was Anne Frank, to hide. Anne Frank was born in Frankfurt, Germany in 1929. The hatred of Jews after Hitler gained power made Anne's parents, Otto and Edith Frank, decide to move to Amsterdam. When Anne's sister Margot received a call-up to report for a so-called labor camp in Nazi Germany on July 5, 1942, her parents were suspicious about what that really meant, so they went into hiding the next day in order to escape persecution. In the spring of 1942, Anne's father had started furnishing a hiding place in the annex of his business premises at Prinsengracht 263. He received help from his former colleagues. Before long, they were joined by 4 more people. The hiding place was very cramped and small. On her 13th birthday, just before they went into hiding, Anne had gotten a diary. During the 2 years in hiding, Anne wrote about events in the secret annex, but also about her feelings and thoughts. The hiding spot was discovered on August 4, 1944, by police officers. The people from the secret annex were put on transport to Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp and extermination camp. In early November 1944, Anne was moved. She was deported to Bergen-Belsen concentration camp with her sister. In February 1945, both her and her sister died from exhaustion. Her father, Otto, survived, and after the war, he found her diary. He read that Anne had wanted to become a writer or a journalist, and that she had intended to publish her stories about the life in the secret annex. Friends convinced Otto to publish the diary, and in June 1947, 3,000 copies of the secret annex had been sold.
After a lot of fighting, the Jewish community received reparations payments from the government. Nowadays, there is still a small Jewish community there with many Holocaust exhibits, including the Anne Frank house.
Between 75 and 80% of the Netherlands Jews were killed during the war. This was the highest rate in Western Europe. About 150,000 Jews were living in the Netherlands in 1940, including about 25,000 German Jews who had come as refugees. Only about 15,000 were counted during the post-war census of 1947. By the war's end, about 107,000 Jews had been killed by the Nazis. That number represents an enormously high percentage of Jews killed, 73% of the Dutch Jews. This compared to that of other countries in Western Europe, only about 40% in Belgium and 25% in France was a large number. A once flourishing city was destroyed by the Nazis in only a short amount of time.